Hello everyone and a good day. It's another video today. I was going to be doing some tutoring, but that didn't eventuate. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at and let's say a continuation from our exercises yesterday. And in this case here, I'm just going to revert it back to how I had it. So what we're looking at here is a continuation on the exception handling, and I'm going to take this a step further and can we do something without exception handling and the things that go along with that. So yesterday the game board, I'm going to say, would have been a point class with an x and a y value in it, and we basically had in it a line of code that checked for a positive value, and if one of the values was not positive, an exception would get raised. And when the exception got raised, down in here, this block of code here would be executed, and well, that really is about it. And let's see what we get now if we were to run our program. Okay, so now we get a range check error here. And why do we get a range check error? Well, we've got one row, 5,000 columns. They're both let's just say, well, what have I got? I haven't built it, have I? Let's just build that again. Okay, that's better. So basically our thing got created, and we can see we've got -1 rows and 5,000 columns. Might not make sense, but it ran quite happily. And the other thing I've got turned on today is range checks. So if we were to let's say make it so, and let's just say this, so we're going to take it back to we're going to now take it back to the code how it was yesterday to do a check on a negative value. And if we do get a negative value, that exception will be raised. So we can build this now and run it again, and this time now you'll see one of these values must be greater than, well, they must both be greater than 0, but in the case of rows was -1. So that's where we ended the video or part of the video yesterday. So what if now, given that we want these things to be positive, it sort of lends itself that we want to use an unsigned type, because an unsigned type versus a signed type, unsigned let's say values greater than 0, whereas a signed type can be positive or negative range. As you can see here, this is on the unsigned types page of the Free Pascal wiki. So what we could do here now is to make that a uint16. So let's go and make this here uint16. We can just copy that down to there, there, and here. And we can now build the program again, and let's see what happens. So what do we have as our R and C? So we've got -1 and now 5,000. And if we were to run this program again, so let's if we were to run it again, now we're going to get a range check error. Why do we get a range check error? Because of the, well, 1, we've turned on range checking, and 2, one of these values here, is not within the right range. We know it's going to be this one here in this case. So but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, and I'm being not really sarcastic, but exceptions are just that, exceptions. As programmers, I think we want to try to not have to rely on exceptions to, to do our error handling for us when we could do something about it ourselves. So we're going to take this one step further though and say that let's suppose that we were, like I said, we're making a game and it was a strategy game and we had, let's say, our maximum size could be 4,000 by 4,000. Which is a lot of cells we want to play with. This, like a strategy type game. So now here, what we could do now is to, rather than just make it an unsigned type, we could have like a sub-range here. And we could say, so I'm going to say this is my range of values. And we're now going to go to here, oops, to there, and to there, there, and here. So now we've got our special type here we're using, our new type we're using. And if we were to now build this, we are now getting a, well actually we don't really need this because it's going to be in the range of 1 to 4,000 now. So let's comment that line out and build that again, and we can see that builds okay, and if we run it we get the same range check error. Why are we getting a range check error? Well, because both the values are outside the range. If we were to just make that a positive value and run it again, we can see that again here. But again, what you'll note is we're using our exception to tell us we got a problem. So let's just say we wanted to, let's just say we would, let's just go one step further. Say we're a designer and we know what the range is. So now what we could do is to ask the user to enter a number of rows, and in this case here we're just going to make it a square board, and we'll make the number of columns equal to the number of rows. And what we will do now is to prompt the user, and we're going to keep prompting them until they put in a value that is less than the max grid size. I should also have in here, until, make sure it's greater than 0 as well. So let's see what happens now. That built okay. Yep. Okay, so now we'll run it and we'll now type in 5,000 or 5999. We could have an error message if we wanted to, but it keeps on prompting us until we put in a value, let's like 4,000, 4000. Press enter, and now we've got a game that's 4,000 by 4,000, and it meant that it didn't go into an exception here because we did the necessary checking beforehand. Another way, and you can do the similar things for a division by 0 type error. Check that the denominator is not 0 before you do the calculation. Check if you do get a pointer back from a function, you can check that the pointer is not nil before looking at a property or a field within that structure. So, like I said, exceptions are meant to handle the exceptions. It's not meant to make us into lazy programmers where we can just, pretend that everything's going to work and let the exception, handle the, the problem for us. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. Again, hit, smack that like, the subscribe, the share button, and again, this is something, while I am using Lazarus, would work in all versions of Pascal. In fact, this sort of stuff was around in the 90s, so we're not talking about anything groundbreaking or new. and this is perhaps one of the well, actually, one thing I can say, back in the 90s, when we were, I think maybe in Pascal, could have been modular too, but you know, when you were playing with, when you did create your own types, you know, and you passed up uh, a parameter to a function that wasn't the same type, you know, the actual compiler would chuck an error. Here you'll note that, you know, I am passing an integer up to here and it's not really having a problem. But the big difference really, let's say, between this and our original code here is that we've added some constraints into our program that govern the size, and it also means that we can get away, shall we say, with less code in our program here in regards to error checking, because a check or validation was performed before the board got created. And in actual fact, what that meant then is, you know, unless something went really wrong, you can then also eliminate, you know, this code here because of a simple check here. So, food for thought. Take that to your next application or program, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.